Hey guys, it's Libby and welcome to another BookTube SFF Babbles. This week, overlooked science fiction. I don't read that much science fiction, but the science fiction that I do read is kind of out there. So without further ado, here are 3 books that you've probably never heard of in order of how much I can tell you without spoilers. So first book will just make you look cool when you read it. It is The Fire Sermon by Francesca Haig, and yes, the cover is just an omega sign, and then it does have like the title on the side, and there is a back cover text. This is the US hardcover edition, I think. So this is the first and currently only published book of a post-apocalyptic trilogy. It's set 400 years after some massive nuclear war explosion, not really sure because all information, or most information from our time, as it were, has been lost. And through some genetic weirdness that has occurred, babies are always born in sets of twins, and one of them is fine, they are called the alpha, and one of them is not fine, and they are referred to as the omega. But there is a catch. If one twin dies, so does the other. So the omegas are largely ostracized, but it's hard to be too mean to them because you really don't want them to die. So our main character is Cass, who is an omega twin, but instead of the usual physical deformity, some omegas, including Cass, have a mental deformity where their mind is kind of unraveled and not well contained in a timeline. So she gets like premonitions of the future, but she's able to conceal this until she's about 13. So she and her twin brother actually sort of grow up together, unlike most twins, because the omegas are sent off to less savory parts of the world. So if you like interesting sibling relationships, I recommend this. You can also listen to a podcast that the author Francesca Haig was on. It's on Tor.com. It's an episode of Midnight in Karachi, one of their podcasts, and I will leave a link below. Next one I listened to the audiobook of, so I do not have something here to hold, and that was The Girl with All the Gifts by M.R. Carey. If you've heard that name recently, it's because he is about to publish his second book, which is called Fellside, which is also a standalone, not related to Girl with All the Gifts. This is also post-apocalyptic. It's set in England after a massive plague has come and turned most people into zombies. And our main character is a little girl who is in one of the sort of havens from all the zombies out there. And she and a group of other children are confined for their protection. And so she leads a rather bleak life. But the one bright spot is her teacher, Miss Justineau, who tells her stories from ancient Greece and the Brothers Grimm. And this book was really interesting because you are getting most of the narrative through the eyes of like a very small child. She's 8, 9, 10, I don't remember, but a young person who does not really get how things work. So there's a third person narrator, it's not first person, but we're still getting it from Melanie's point of view for the most part. And so there's inferences that we, the reader, are able to make that Melanie is not able to make, and that's interesting. The one problem I did have with this book is that I think M.R. Carey thinks that I'm a bad person, because I'm just going to tell you, this will make sense if you've read it. I am on Team Caldwell. That's the I don't want to die team. And whenever there is an I don't want to die team, that's the one I'm on. And then finally, one of my favorite books of all time that no one has read, Under the Skin by Michelle Faber. There is a movie of this with Scarlett Johansson. It is very different and I believe impossible to understand if you don't know what the director's trying to do from the story. David watched it without having read the book, and he assumed that it was about the Shinto gods. It's not about the Shinto gods. It's about a lady named Isserly. How much more can I tell you without totally spoiling it? The way this book works is you have so little information in the beginning, and then every chapter you learn something that like completely changes your perception. And even the marketing, like this cover with, you know, the deltoids and the description on the back cover, lead you to believe that this is a sexy thriller. And then the first chapter is about a lady named Isserley, who is kind of weird looking but has massive boobs, who drives around Scotland and looks for the beefiest male hitchhikers to pick up in her car. And then she talks to them to ascertain whether or not they have a girlfriend. And then if they don't, she drugs them. That's not what this story is about at all, though. I promise you, this is science fiction. There will be a spaceship. Hold out. There will be a spaceship. I cannot express to you how sad I am that I can't tell you anything else about this book without spoiling the whole point of it for you. But it is fantastic. It's about empathy and the ways that we stop ourselves from feeling it. I will warn you that there is a somewhat violent rape scene in this if you are not interested in reading that sort of thing. It is something that you can skim over though and still get the whole of the story. So in case you were worried about not having enough books on your TBR, I know that's something that plagues us all. You can now add The Fire Sermon, The Girl with All the Gifts, and Under the Skin. Happy reading!